Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. It's another Camel Chat. And today I'm talking, this is my Michael Jordan interview moment. I am so excited. I'm nervous. I've gone to the toilet 50 times because my bladder is just so excited. Because today, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Oracle of duda agencies. And I call him the Oracle because when this man speaks, people listen, including this little fella here. Now, he's famous for not only how you build an agency, but he's famous for things like how WordPress sucks and all this sort of stuff. He's famous for all that. He's famous for the way he runs an agency with duda. And we can mention duda with him because he promotes it as well. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to look a little bit further into the man, into this man that is the CEO and the founder of Chicago's greatest agency and one of the best in the world, which is Olive Street Design. We're going to talk to the Michelangelo of duda design. And without waiting any further, let me, with excitement, with respect, introduce you to the godfather of duda, Mr. Nat Rosasco.
Hello, Shane. I have to say, I really don't like talking after you because it's like a buzzkill for people.
Yeah, I work on the fact, Nat, that if you don't make a good first impression, so I go alls out on the introduction, and if the rest
Make
of
it big,
who
go big or
cares?
go home. Yeah,
Go big or go home. And I was going to say you were the Babe Ruth, but then I remembered he was the what is it, the curse of the Bambino.
right. Yeah.
So that would have been a bad thing for Chicago. So I thought I'll go for Michael Jordan because you actually got to watch the Chicago Bulls the other night, which I was so jealous.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. But you're looking well, Nat.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed. So we're going to start it off. And what we start off with is the early days from birth, bit of family history stuff. Now, I've got to warn you, mate, when I ask you this question, you're not allowed to talk about the fact that you came from a little city called Kolyani and they put you on the back of a donkey after your family got shot, because that story has already been taken, okay? So what I want you to do is just give us the background on the early days of Nat.
Okay, early days of, how far back do you want me to go?
Mate, we call it pimples and puberty. You can go back that far.
All the way back. Okay.
All the way back.
Yep. I grew up outside of Chicago in an Italian neighborhood, Elmwood Park, then River Forest. Went to a parochial grade school for 8 years, and then went to an all-boys Catholic high school.
Wow.
Where they could hit you and beat you and do things that today they'd be in jail for, and that was allowed for that. Enjoyed that. Went on to University of Michigan. I studied economics. Well, I actually studied psychology for 2.5 years there. 2.5 years, and decided to change my major. So my senior year there was awful because I was an econ major and I had to take 12 economics classes my senior year. It was awful.
Wow.
But I got through that. Loved my time there. I played rugby for 4 years at the University of Michigan. Had a blast doing that. That was a lot of fun. My parents came to one game. My mom cried and my dad left the field.
Oh.
And that was that. Did a graduate school, a master's in marketing at DePaul University, in international marketing, and that was my passion. I had a knack for running companies, and that's what I did. But year 2000, I was hired by a private equity firm to get a company out of bankruptcy. It was a pool cue company. I did a good job with that. They kept me on for a long time there, and that's where the seed of Olive Street Design came out of. They put me on boards of different companies for them. I had done a brief stint at a .com company and did a turnaround there, and I thought, this internet thing is pretty cool. Maybe I should look into this. a little more in depth. I'd been in manufacturing most of my career, and I love the internet. I learned a lot of things. And in year 2000, 2001, I knew a lot more than manufacturing companies did. So I was like the guru to manufacturing companies and not great at it. But compared to a manufacturing facility, I was pretty good. 2005, one of the founders of the private equity firm who had hundreds of companies that they had, and he said, "Why don't you start Olive Street Design?" And so I did that while I was still working for them for 5 more years.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then 2010, I hit 50, and I told my wife, I said, "What do you think if I come?" I didn't tell you. The company was north of Milwaukee. It was 100 miles from my home.
Oh my
And
God.
that was my commute every day. I commuted every day.
100 mile there, 100 mile back.
Yeah, for 8 or 9 years. So that was tough. Kids are in college, and so 2010, I said to my wife, I said, how about I try this permanently?
Yep.
We do go Olive Street Design, and let's go forward with that. 2 of my kids were in college, 2 were going to be in college. We had a lot of bills, and I had 8 clients.
Oh,
So I was like, oh my gosh, this could be a really bad idea. But the commute was brutal, but I knew a lot of people in business for a long time here, and I figured, well, let's see what I can do. Right now, I mean, I'll fast forward and then go backwards. 12 years later, we have 1,300 direct clients.
Yeah.
There's no salespeople. There's no business development department. There never has been here.
No.
It was what I could make out of this. And I had my boys, and they're I think in like 6th and 8th grade, handing flyers out to businesses in the town, going door to door, handing these things out. Said, please call my dad. He needs business. We want to go to college.
He's got to feed us.
Yeah. So, and the thing that I learned, Shane, with that, and you being a business owner, I got to tell everyone too, is I'll fast forward to that in a second about how we met. But you own a business, and you and I talk to a lot of agencies, and a lot of people say, I want a website and let's get some clients. That's not how it goes.
No.
You got to roll up your sleeves, and you got to do things you never thought you would do. A friend of mine, we were going to a Notre Dame Michigan football game, like 2012 or 13. And I said, "Oh, can you wait out and stop? I got to drop a box of business cards off for this guy." And he goes, "You own this company, and you're going to drop 250 cards off at this guy's house?" I said, "Yeah." And that's what you do. You do whatever it takes that you have to do.
You got to do whatever it takes. Now, what did your dad do?
Golf club manufacturing.
Golf club manufacturing. And what was his work ethic?
He had a pretty good work ethic.
Yeah.
And, I worked in the golf company. I was 15 years old. The $1.60 was the minimum wage at that point. And I worked in the factory, and I did that for about 6 years. And it's like, he had a big office upstairs, a big company, big office upstairs. I'd go up there, and he goes, "You can't go up here. You're in the union. You've got to go downstairs with everyone." I said, "Okay." And it taught me a lot of humility.
Did you use a lot of that in those early days? Was that a big driver behind what you did? Or was it the Catholic boys' school, fear of failure, getting belted with a stick?
I think it was both. A good friend of mine, Antonio, and his last name is Romanucci, and he was Romanucci. I'm Rosasco. We went to the same school for 12 years. We sat next to each other for 12 years because they put you in alphabetical order. And he's now a wildly successful attorney here. He's on CNN and Fox News all the time.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it about a year ago and said, what is it? And we're both Italian, we weren't in the neighborhood we went to school. There are a lot of Irish, and they're probably predominantly Irish. And we're kind of the outsiders.
Yeah.
And he hit 60 or 61 years of age too, and said, what are we doing working this hard this late in our lives? We don't need to. But we still do, and we're talking about what instilled that. And I think it's family work ethic.
Yeah.
But I think the schools that we went to, and I looked back and I got the class list of who we went to school with, and there were only 170 kids in my graduating class.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked and saw where they're at today, and it's like 167 out of 170 were wildly successful.
Wow.
So I've got to think that education, you sit in alphabetical order. Here's what you do. If you get out of line, you're going to get these paddled. They give these big wooden paddles
Yeah.
with studs in them. You'd
Ow.
bend over, grab your ankles,
Mm.
and they would crack you one.
Yeah.
And you get welts. And then you go home and it'd say, yeah, you know what? I got paddled again today. And my parents said, oh, you must have deserved it. Shut up and
Boom.
here's dinner. So
Whereas
you know what?
now, what would they do now? One, the
Oh my
kid would never
gosh.
get the paddling. But two,
Right.
even if the teacher spoke out of line, that one, they'd go down there. Two, they'd demand he gets kicked out. Three, they'd sue him. Right?
Exactly.
But
All
little do they
those
realize
things.
it's an education.
And it's a character builder.
You know, I sit back and one of my main drivers was my dad, pretty similar. My dad was not a businessman, but it was Dad's philosophy of life that set me up where even today, you know, that a lot of the thing I go, God, that's my dad, right? But it was also that school upbringing where you got whacked, you got yelled at. And did it scar me mentally? No. It made me into a better man, and it also made me into a better businessman. And also the people I worked with were so tough. You know, if you didn't succeed, they'd send you home and all this sort of stuff. And there was no clock on, clock off. It was, Hodgie, you haven't made budget. There's 5 hours left in the day. Go knock on some doors.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, the clients that I used to call on were Kmart and Target and Walmart and Costco and all the big ones in Europe as well, and Tesco and Aldi. And you learn some humility talking to people like that these enormous corporations, and you get it forces you to better yourself.
Absolutely. What about the 2 years of psychology? Is that handy?
You tell me. That was a joke.
You know what? Where I reckon it'd be handy? The questioning.
Yeah.
Because
you know what? It was. I read situations and people pretty well.
Yeah,
and I don't know if
that's
that a little bit of that degree or just growing up and going to these bigger meetings, and you just see what's going sideways, what's going well, what I know we're gonna get fired from this right now. And you just know it.
I've been on the Nat couch, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And he can make you feel pretty bloody uncomfortable, but also in the end, you get all these answers. You think, where did they come from? So you're right. And I know, yes, I will admit I've had psychotherapy, right? Like most people in the world today. And it's that question where they ask one question and next thing I'm reaching for the box of Kleenex. My world is falling apart and I'm dragging up stuff from 30 years ago because of the one question they asked. So I can imagine in selling, if you want to drag it out of them, that 2 years of psychology gives you that ability to ask that beautiful question. But it also gives you the ability to get in rapport.
You know, and that chain is huge. And I can't remember, it was years ago, but I had read it was one of the big billionaires, the guy in Omaha. I can't think of his name right now, but I think he was the one that said it. He said, out of all the things you do, he said his number one thing is to be interesting.
Amen.
And I think that's so important. And I think, you know, going to school and learning things, is I learned it to study. And when I talk to somebody, before I call them, I'll look them up on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on anything that I can find to come up with something to talk about that you can get, you can be in common with them. And it's not a trick or anything. It's just like you can draw things out of people and start to get them to talk to you.
So
And
when you have that first call, do you basically avoid selling?
oh yeah, no, I don't sell at all.
That's
Actually, I try
interesting.
to not sell. And I'll tell people we're real busy. I don't need to do this. I'd like to,
Uh,
but I get them comfortable
wow.
because that's how I am.
Yeah,
Is I don't want to sell anybody anything that they don't need.
yeah,
And I think that's real important. I get to know them. I want to understand the business. I want to understand what they're trying to do. And I want to understand the things that we have in our arsenal to help them.
yeah.
I've walked away from people that said, you know what, I don't think we're a good fit for you.
Wow.
And if there's people, I just had someone today and we launched a website and I said, I think you need live chat and ADA compliance because you're dealing with something in government and stuff. They said, you know what, great call. But I don't say that to everybody.
Mm,
I tell them when I think it's needed. I don't blast out emails to every client.
no.
I'd rather hand select things that I know that they may need and can help them drive revenue.
Yeah. We had a chat 2 days ago with a great guy, and when he first started out, he created what he called his Dream 100, all right, which was the Dream 100 clients that he'd like to get in his business. Now, he just did what you said don't do. He didn't do it either, and that was he contacted 10 of those a week. He didn't contact the 100 and blast them with a zillion emails every 5 minutes. He just worked on 10 a week.
Yeah.
And he did what you said, which was he studied them, he called them up, he continually sent them information that might be interesting to them, all that sort. Do you think that's missing with a lot of new agencies where they just
Oh,
go, what do you think?
absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody, they give the same story. We had a client, an ophthalmologist, a big doctor's office ophthalmologist, and they got contacted through LinkedIn.
Mm.
And because I've got a very good relationship with them, they sent me this thing, and this company made a video, and it was all the things that they could do for them. And he was like, you know what, we need more leads. These people are promising us, but you know what, we like you. We just want to send it to you. So I'm watching this thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a canned video here that they're sending to everybody that's going to give them the exact same things there. And they started with review software. That's what they're talking about.
Yep.
So what does Nat do? I'm little have anxiety with my client. I don't want to lose any clients ever. I think if someone spends $100 with me or 10,000 with me a year, they're all important. I don't want to lose anybody ever.
No.
And I think it comes through, and that's a good point too, is treat everybody like the dollar they're spending is that important to them, because it is. But I Google this company, and there's somebody, you would know them, and I'm not going to name names here. I Google them. Better Business Bureau comes up. Fraud. Watch these people. We will not give them a BBB thing. And then I looked them up on one other one, and it might have been Trust Radius or Trust Pilot or one of those things. 0 stars. Stay away from these people. And so I emailed back. I sent the links to the doctor. I said, don't you think when someone is telling you that reviews are important, and then they bash me and they want to get into you, that they have the gall to send this and their reviews are brutally terrible?
Oh, and you on in the Duda Experts and Solutions Partners, Olive Street Design has 185 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
Now the Camel, which we're pretty proud of ourselves, we only have 22. Right. So I think that system works. Right. We'll give you that. You know, Nat, what I'm feeling is, and you know, I love that thing old school, and I love back in the day. Do you think that is it because we came from that era? Because you're in your 60s, so am I.
Yep.
Right. We came from that era, and we're still working on that today, and we're both pretty successful now. Right.
Yep.
And I know that a lot of agencies look at us and go, that's where I want to be. Is our advantage our age?
Oh, I think to a great extent it is. And I don't want people to say, you know, these guys are just these old guys or whatever, but I talk to a lot of agencies, and some of them, they just get it and they're willing to put the work in and roll up their sleeves. And others just they say, I've got a website. Why don't I have clients?
Yeah.
And I say this to all of my clients. I sell this to people, and I swear to God, people think I'm exaggerating this. I get a website every 10 days, and I'll ask someone, I said, why did I get this? And they'll say, you're the only guy that called me back.
Yeah.
And I give workshops at Notre Dame and Michigan and Northwestern University.
Yeah.
And they're all in the graduate school in an entrepreneurship program. And I'll tell them all this stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
I said, now do you want the golden egg here? Yeah, what is it? I said, answer the phone and answer the email faster than anybody else. And they're going,
Yeah.
all right, what else? I said, no, that's kind of it. It's people aren't serviced well. And I think with COVID and just people today having less of an attention span, everybody wants to be heard, and they want to be heard.
No.
And a lot of agencies are just not willing to do that.
Yeah. Now, on one hand, we thank God they don't. And on the other hand, you know, it'd be a perfect word. But you made me think, when I was in China, and, you know, I dealt at high government level in China, where I dealt with central government. And I was asked by the University of South Australia to do a talk to the MBA students on how you do business at a high level in China. And they said, oh, make sure you talk about this statistic and that statistic. I said, I'm not going to talk about any about that. And I got up, and there was probably 500 there. And I said, put your hand up if you can sing one Chinese song in a karaoke. Nobody put their hand up. I said, now put your hand up if you can drink Muay Thai. No one put their hand up. I said, now put your hand up if you could sit in a tea house for 3 hours drinking tea. Nobody put their hand up. I said, well, I just gave you the 3 successful ways to do business in China. And it was a fact, because what it boiled down to, if the relationship is right, everything else falls into place. Do you use artificial intelligence to gain clients?
If that's artificial intelligence, yeah, then every day.
There you go. Right.
That's why you talk about relationships, and that's why I want to pivot back to something real quick.
Yeah.
And I've been going to duda for probably 6 or 7 years. How long have you been doing business with duda?
2013.
All right, so maybe about 15 or 16.
Yeah, you're in front of me.
I was behind, and then after that, I went to Palo Alto.
Yep.
And just talking about the camel. Oh my God, really? No, I said, I'm right here. And then another trip, the camel. Third trip, I'm like, oh my gosh. So first, it's like I was jealous of you.
Ooh.
And angry with you because you had this space in their heads, all of them, every person there. I could go meet someone, just anybody.
Yeah.
Shane at the Camel. I said, all right. So that's when I just emailed you and said, you know what? We're big here. You're big there. Want to talk?
Yeah.
I think it was like 7 minutes later, I get an email back and said, I'd love to. Now, how many people, the 2 guys that are vying for a really high position with the duda people would talk to each other?
It was Boeing and Airbus.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm sending this. I'm like, I'm going to kick myself for throwing this out there, but this is who I am. I mean, this is what you see is what you get. Email back. I think we talked 2 days later, and we always call each other brother. And every time we're like, I feel that way.
Yeah,
And
it's true. And you know the funny part, Nat, my wife, right, the love of my life, will turn around when there's a problem and she'll say, have you spoken to Brother Nat? Right. I'm not joking but we're competitors in a way,
yeah,
right? Because we
yeah.
both get the same leads sometimes, but I love it that I sit back and I go, oh, Olive Street would be better at that than me.
I want them all, but if I don't get them, I want you to get them. And
Hey,
I've
man, I don't
actually,
want anyone else
and
to get them.
I've told people too. I said, listen, I don't know who you're talking to, but if it's not us, please let it be Shane.
Yeah.
So,
And we do it now. And it's funny how the client goes into absolute shock because they'll say to me, oh, we're talking to someone else. Are you talking to my brother Nat?
yeah.
Oh, how do you know? I said, well, he's obvious. How do you feel? He's my brother. What do you think?
Right.
And I said, if you're with him, you're in safe hands. Now, there's a good point. It doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not scared. Tony Melfi, a great friend of mine, greatest buddy, him and I were so competitive against each other in the same market. He was on one side of town, I was on the other side of town. We were so competitive that if I got a client that had Tony's business card, I would take the business card. And when I closed the deal at the end of the month, I would send all those business cards to Tony with thank you.
Yeah.
And he was the same with me. But we're still buddies today.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, I don't know, is that humility?
I think it's humility. And I think, and it's another thing that I believe strongly in, and considering we don't have a sales force or a business development department, it's your network and who you choose to be in it.
Yeah.
And I chose back then, if Shane would have me, I'd want to be in the network together.
Amen.
And we're also, and I'll throw a kudo out to Brian from WebAct.
Yeah.
And we're friendly. And he's here in the States.
Yes.
I mean, we compete way more than I compete with you there.
Yeah.
But we do projects together every week.
Yeah.
You choose your network, you choose who you want to be in it. And you know what? There's millions of websites out there. I could do 100 or 200 a year. I don't begrudge my partners and my friends anything, and I want to build up what we build together.
Even Spotzer, who's the biggest, right? Yeah. And Peter Urmson, I like his posts on LinkedIn and he likes mine, and we both comment. And if he writes something really well, I send him a private message and he sends me one.
Yeah.
Now, Spotzer's like a $300 million company, right? But he's an Aussie. You know, he was the CEO of my biggest client in Australia. He was their CEO back in the day. But I respect the guy for what he's done. I respect them for what they do. Brian and I are total competitors. But hey, he calls me up, I call him, it's good.
Right.
Good question though. COVID, we both know COVID was tough for everyone all over the world, right? But I think you and I and a few others, we either treaded water or we got above the ocean during COVID. Now it's over, right? I call it the COVID thaw. And I've noticed, we've got busier, but I've also noticed there's a change in the way we operate. Have you seen that?
Yes. What's your change? And then I'll tell you mine.
Oh, can you believe he just said that? He wants a secret.
Yeah, I do.
What my change is, now I might be a little bit different than you because I'm in the Philippines, you're stateside. What we focused on greatly was building up our partner management team and our relationship team. So we focused more on Zoom calls just as an onboarding thing. We focused more on the relationship of always feeding things towards the relationship. We changed our whole process so there was far more check and balance on quality, right? But if I had to summarize what changed the most for us was our onboarding totally changed to more of a relationship onboarding, hand-holding, than what it was before.
Yeah, I see that too. And we've got different, because I could ask you that. I mean, we're really have different clientele. I'm really going, I deal with a lot of couple hundred agencies. You deal with more than that. You're that side of your business is um, is way bigger than mine. More, I've got a lot more personal Olive Street clients that are direct clients, and that's my model. And COVID was really good. It sounds awful, but I mean, it was really good.
It was, yeah.
I did a reach out to start telling people, and I handpicked probably 150 of our clients, but they're all in medical and whatever. And I said, put a personalization bar up there and have COVID regulations. And I did it before most small companies ever thought about it.
Yeah, you
People would say, thank you. Boy, I would have never thought about that. And then a month later, like, you know what, that really helped my business. That was a great idea. Put some COVID guidelines up there, what you're doing. And they were real appreciative of it. And I rode that to a lot of extra business with existing clients. It's still now a lot of Zoom calls. I think people are just used to this now.
Do you think it's the norm now?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I've got clients that are 10 minutes from here.
Yeah.
And I'm doing Zoom calls. I said, really, just come in. We're right down the road. And if we can meet, it's better.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to change and have a permanent impact. I think people will go back to wanting to be with people again. But, all the clients I picked up, none of them are in the Chicago area, which is great. I still like the ones that I can have that one-on-one FaceTime with. And then they'll tell somebody about it. It's like if you get a good plumber, you tell everybody, because not many of them are reliable. And you get a guy that picks up the phone, he calls you, he comes out, he's fair, he does a good job, you tell everybody. And that's what we try to preach here is that. And what I'm seeing now, and that's the reason I asked you, because I'm seeing this in the last 2 months, and maybe this is a US election thing. There's a lot of angst here in this country.
Oh yeah.
I don't think the election, it didn't make it better. The outcome, the country, you could just see, as divided as they were, that's how they are now. And people they're a little edgier. And I find that I can be very short. When we talk, you go on and this great personality. I'm more short to the point, and that wasn't resonating with people as well. And I'm finding it's like I've got to be a little more comforting, which is my personality. It's more direct. I'm like the Simon Cowell of web design. As I tell you like it is. And I just have to dial that back a little bit, because people aren't as, not everybody, but there's a lot of people, they're not as friendly as they were.
No, I can say it because I don't live there, that Trump was a bad thing for America, right? As in, he created the greatest, because like I lived in the States for 4 years, and I was one of those people that, to me, man, when I landed in LA, I kissed the ground, because it was my lifelong dream to get there. I was like the movies where they see the ship going past the Statue of Liberty and everyone's crying. I was like that. That to me was what America was all about. It lost it, and it got, people became so aggressive. The place was 50-50. And when the election happened, because I prayed there would be, get rid of that mob, right? You need to move forward, America. And that happened, but the follow-on hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And when he announced that he was going to run again, I was hoping and praying, I hope that doesn't happen too much. But the thing is, it's not only the United States, even throughout the world. Over the weekend, there was elections in Malaysia, and they got rid of the party that had been in power for 62 years. They got rid of them, and all the make Malaysia great again people got absolutely thumped because people are sick of it. What they want is this friendliness, because people had 4 years of this aggressive nature, and us in the Philippines, we notice a bit of prejudice in some areas because they'd had this "Make America Great Again" thing, right? And it wasn't a pretty time. And I pray that the US now gets a bit of love back in the house.
I hope, I'm not going to say one side or the other, but I hope there's a kinder, gentler world out there.
Yes.
And people are nicer to each other. And I hope whatever politicians, whoever is in office, they start to get things done, and everything isn't a political issue. It doesn't need to be. There are things that are health issues. There are other things, and everything is made to be a political issue. And I want things to get done. And one of the things I've had the honor of is dealing with some great groups in Washington, DC, some think tank people, and I was last week. I was on a call with the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury.
Wow.
And talking about the IRS, which here is, it's like talking about something really bad. And I got off the call after an hour. There were like 20 people that were honored to be on this call. And I had a complete different impression of it. And it's like, you hear the left, you hear the right. And I talked to somebody that was on a side that I just liked what he had to say. And, let's filter out the white noise of left and right. Let's tell the truth. Let's get on a track to get things going and be nicer to each other.
And stop lawyering up. Everything's lawyer up, and you sort of sit back and you think it's got to stop. Get back to the basics. And the basics is do what's right, look after each other, listen to people, get some love in the house. Forget about this one, and this one matters, that one. Forget about that for a minute. America matters. Relationships matter. And for us, my last political comment, a lot of people say, well, why do you worry about American politics? We do, because you're the leader of the world, right? Like it or not. And the internet made it even stronger that we look to the US commercially. We look to them militarily. We look to them for peace. We look for them for common sense, innovation, all these things. And that seemed to have gone out the door for 4 years. And that was, to us, the biggest problem, that especially in the Philippines, because the Philippines are so pro-US. And what happened here was they went the opposite. They went pro-China. Now they're drifting back, like, what's the name of the vice president? Camel Harris was here for the last, she's been here the last 3 days. And, it brought a bit of thing in it. I'll get off the politics now. It's one of my favorite subjects now.
I know.
So we've talked about a lot of great things. We talked about positive stuff. Unfortunately, there has to be some things where it doesn't go so well. If you had to talk about some mistakes you think you made along the way you wouldn't do again, what those sort of things would that be?
One of them is what you and I have talked about for a while. When I started Olive Street, I didn't host the websites. Sorry. I had to pick off the scab. And I went years and I just didn't do that. And so I missed an opportunity, and I learned that. That was the biggest one, the one that got away from me. But I learned. The other big thing is, and this is not to get software discussion driven here, but it took me too long I should have gotten off of WordPress longer, and we still do WordPress. We
Yeah.
still do it. We've got 10 in the hopper right now, but there's 90 duda sites going.
Yeah.
And I hung on a little too long for that. And I talked to a lot of agencies, and they just, they'll say, well, people, they just demand WordPress. And it took me a long time to figure out that meant they wanted a CMS. They
Yeah.
wanted somewhere they could log in and do something. They didn't want Dreamweaver or HTML code.
Mm.
And I hung on. I wish I would have pivoted a little quicker with that. Those are the two things that I look back on and say I could have done that better.
I agree with you on one, right? Because you and I have talked about this, and I would have. It would have been a lot easier if I hosted sites, which now I've changed, as you know. But here's a good question though, Nat, because maybe it's a new age thing, but the way we talk, because we've got a bit of orange blood in our veins, right, which is duda blood, a lot of people will actually bring up, oh, is it wise to have all your eggs in one basket? What's your answer to that?
As us being an agency kind of partnering with duda, is that what you're asking?
Compare why you and I are so pro duda, because we love the product. People forget that. We love the product, right? But why don't we have Wix and Weebly as well?
Okay, I'm not going to give all my secrets out here, but I've tried others and they weren't as good. And I came to the frightening conclusion that I'm all in with duda, and I hope to God they keep doing great. I believe in it. It's doing well. I know people at Wix. I know people at Squarespace. We've tried it. Nice product. Have a lot of nice additions. Duda's better. We can make them faster and better, and they perform better, which is really what I care about, are the leads and I get an SEO bump if I just put something on duda. And I know the other companies. I'm not willing to do much there. If I needed to pivot, I could and would, but you and I talked about this a couple of years ago and saying, you know what, we think duda is really on the right path. And if I'm going to hitch my wagon to something, it's the duda. And it was, 40 years of being in business, having that innate sense that I hope to God you and I are right.
Yeah.
But as duda has been rising, we've been rising with it.
Yeah.
And that was my intention, and that's what I wanted to do. You and I have had this discussion.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to hitch your something to sell, if you're going to put all your eggs in one basket, this is a pretty good basket to bet on.
I mean, I work it out now. When I first started, I was working out of my house. Now I got a 2-story building. It's worked well. And me, I'm one of those people. I can only have one wife, and I can only sleep with one woman. That's just the way I am. So I like that relationship we have with them. I love that. I would find it, and you and I have been courted. We'll let that be known. We've been courted by a lot of the others, right? But I just, some people say better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Well, I don't class them as the devil. It's more like I'm happy with the angels that we're with. And I do pray that they continue to go along, because we've vested a lot of time, effort, and money into this. But they've never let us down. And I'm just more comfortable with that, all my eggs in one basket. I'm comfortable with it because the returns are great. We can get things done rather than I've got to go to 3 different people and say, oh, can you do this? I don't want to do that. I'm not like that.
I mean, they're my friends now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gotten to that point, and you and I have heard, we talk to a lot of agencies, and we hear some sniping here and there. And I would just say, try one of the others and see if they listen to you at all. And they're just, duda's by far better than all of them.
Amen.
And there might be some little hiccups here and there, or they didn't listen to this, or I tried to get a hold of that. But I have experience with other places, and dude is by far the best.
Yeah,
Perfect? No, neither am I though.
no. You know, that in a way, yeah, they all build websites, but like, yes, and you still build WordPress, but it's not your dominant player, right? So I think it boils down to us as businesses, and people are listening to this because they want to grow their business. Well, one of the words of wisdom we're giving them is there's nothing wrong with having all your eggs in one basket.
Yes, correct.
Right? It's not that, you know, we've gone through the other stuff where, you know, you and I, it's all about the relationship. It's all about that sort of stuff. It's the same thing with the product or service you're using. There's nothing wrong in building up that. And if I look at it, my number one client has been our client for now 6 years. All their eggs are in our basket.
Yeah.
I don't see them having the fear factor, and they're one of the largest corporations in Australia. So I think it's an argument that the newbies and the new style of the world will throw at us, that we could throw it back at them and say, well, it's working for us. You know,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Duda gets better every month.
Yeah.
Software, they work on it every day.
Yeah.
The
And they've got
apps
some
that
warts
they
as
add
well.
to it, it's
But we all have.
yeah, we all do. But I'll tell you, I'm just all in. My agency would be 40% smaller, maybe 50% smaller without Duda.
Yep.
I can build a website at any price to help a small to medium sized business out. And I can't do that with WordPress.
No, I agree. Okay. Couple of off-topic questions now.
Okay.
So if you were sitting in front of a bunch of college students and you had to give the Nat philosophy of the 3 things in life you need to do to succeed in business, what are those 3 things? Nothing to do with websites or anything, just the 3 Nat tips.
Be genuine. Be yourself. Don't pretend to be somebody else, or you just talk to people, engage them. So I think being genuine, being honest all the time is not easy. If you got to give somebody some bad news, don't sugarcoat it. I'm sorry, this is what happened. And I hope you get over it, and we can move on together. So genuine, honest, and approachable.
Approachable's good.
Yeah.
Approachable's good. Okay, next one is if Google and social media got wiped out by a tsunami tomorrow and you had to start business from scratch, how would you find customers?
Network. It's a network that I have. And I would reach out to them. When I started the business, in 2010, I said, I'm going to go out, and if I have to give 10 websites away, I'm going to do that. And I found an architect, I got a builder, I got a law firm, I got a dentist, I got a med spa. I went to 10 verticals, and I begged people. I said, we'll give them to you. And I think I actually gave some of them away.
Yeah.
And that's how I started. And those 10 people, probably I got 75 to 100 clients from those first 10. And they're all still here. I would do the same path.
Put on a comfortable pair of shoes and go knock on the doors?
Yeah. Yeah.
Say good day?
Yeah. Be humble, beg if you have to. And
beg if you have to. But are you saying pick a niche or just anybody?
We're not niche driven here. I would have liked to have been, but we've got a lot of clients like restaurants and lawyers
Yeah.
and med spas. We have a lot of.
Yeah.
To do it all over again, I'd probably pick 3 and go deep.
Yeah.
We just have a lot of different clients now. And
But you'd pick
um,
3
yeah,
and go deep. So you'd get a bit niche. You wouldn't cast a big, huge net and pray you get some fish.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're the words of wisdom from Nat on if there was a Google tsunami and a social, and you actually had to go out and find customers, that's how he'd do it. And I'm pretty much the same. And when you talk to the wise old ones, they all come back with the same thing, right? It's when you talk to the millennials, they have no idea, mate. They would be like shipwrecked, no food, no water, no hope.
You know, the other thing to add to that, Shane, is I've got clients all over. And we've got
Yeah.
over 1,000 clients. So I've got a lot.
Yeah.
Out of the 1,300, 900 of them are within 30 miles of my office.
There you go.
So my net, I would canvas where I'm at because I could get in front of people.
Yep.
And if I wanted to rely on the internet and doing Zoom calls and trying to approach people out of state and out of the United States, it would be much harder. I would just say, I'm right here. You can drive to my office.
Yeah.
And there's a comfort for people that do that. There's a lot of people that are like, you're local and I can come and see you if I want to. Here's the office. We've got all kinds of room here. Come on in.
Yeah, have a cup of coffee. They're never going to leave you, Nat.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to be able to take them off you. Unless
Yeah.
you screw up and you forget about those things you've already mentioned. Which
Right.
brings us to my last question.
Yeah.
I know you're not a tattoo person. I can't imagine you're a tattoo person.
No.
Do you have a tattoo?
No.
Okay, I have a few, right? But I have a bad background, right? Okay, now just imagine for a moment if Nat did have a tattoo, right? And it was a Nat's personal tattoo. No one else saw it. Maybe your wife saw it, right? But it was Nat's tattoo. So when the chips are down, right, Nat looks in the mirror, puts that shoulder over, and he goes, that's me. That's going to drive me, right? What would be the words that would be on that tattoo? What's it say?
It would be my olive, first of all.
Yep.
So there's
Olive.
everything I put the olive on it. And what would it say? It would say, and if people ever look at any of my posts,
Yeah.
they're not normal. Yours aren't normal either, which is why I love them. I'm family driven.
Yes.
And I would say family first.
That's what drives you?
Yeah.
Gets you out of bed?
Absolutely. And 2 of my kids work for me. Half of one does too. The other one is a regional vice president at Salesforce.
Yeah.
I can't afford him. But what I'm doing now, it's for my family.
Yeah.
And that's ahead of everything else. And then I love to help SMBs a lot. That gets me up. That drives me.
Yep. And that's another common factor you just mentioned there. All the greats that I've got to talk to, every one of them loves to help SMBs. Now, maybe it's we were there. Right. And we love the fact that we remember the people that helped us.
Yeah.
We want to be the same.
If there was a word that encapsulated me in business, it's passion.
Passion.
I've got a lot of clients that'll say, you know what, you seem more excited about my business than I am, and that really makes me happy. And I'm passionate. If I'm in all the way.
Yep.
It's not toe in the water, it's diving all the way in.
Yeah.
And be passionate about helping people, be passionate about your family, be passionate about your friends. Just go all in.
And that's one of the reasons I love you.
And that's one of the reasons I love you.
I want to thank you for this 1 hour. It's been a pleasure for me. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people watch this that are going to get to know a little bit more about you personally. And it's been a pleasure, my brother. And you are the oracle And you're also like my godfather. And although there's one bloke in the duda he thinks he is, right? So,
Okay.
right. But I want to tell you, I love you. Have a great day. Have a tremendous Thanksgiving.
You too.
And love to all the Rosascos, especially Lindsay. Our prayers are with her every day. And we'll talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you.
See you, mate.
Bye-bye.
Ta-da.
Cheers.
Hey everybody, it's Shane from TheCamel.co and I'm here with Jeffrey. And I just want to put a quick word out. Do you know that this video is one of hundreds of videos that are available on the Camel channel? And what are the videos? There's videos on how to sell, there's videos on how to market, there's videos on how to make something. We do a great curry. You name it, we got videos about it. And we've also got a lot of videos about the special offers that the Camel has. So it's not just this thing that you're seeing now, it's a lot of information, a lot of services. You want to know more? Just click on the subscribe button. That way you don't have to search, it automatically comes to the inbox. You do that, have a great day. From me, Jeffrey, talk to you soon. See ya.